The pungent aroma of expensive whiskey and Cuban cigars hung heavily in the air, intertwining with the palpable tension surrounding the poker table. I, Carlos, the self-proclaimed king of cards, was on the verge of making the play of my life. My fingers caressed the chips, a stack that represented more money than most people saw in a year. "All in," I declared, pushing everything to the center of the table. The silence that followed was deafening. My opponent, a Russian magnate with eyes as cold as Siberian ice, stared me down. For a moment, I doubted myself. Had I gone too far? The face of my wife, Anna, flashed in my mind, her last words echoing, "Carlos, please come home. We need you." I pushed the thought away. This was my world now. The casino was my stage, and I was the star of the show. The Russian turned over his cards. Straight flush. My heart stopped. With a trembling smile, I revealed my hand. Royal flush. The room exploded in applause and shouts. I had done it again. As the chips were pushed in my direction, I felt an indescribable euphoria. Who needed family when you had this? "Gentlemen, let's celebrate," I exclaimed, my voice hoarse with excitement. "Drinks on me." The casino staff rushed to accommodate my request, bringing trays laden with crystal glasses filled to the brim with golden liquid. I raised my glass, the ice cubes clinking against the sides. "To the game that gives us life." The Russian magnate, despite his loss, nodded respectfully. "You play well, Mr. Carlos. But remember, fortune is a fickle mistress." I laughed, the sound echoing off the ornate walls of the high-stakes room. "Fortune? My friend, I make my own luck." As the night wore on, the celebration continued. I regaled my fellow gamblers with tales of my past victories, each story more grandiose than the last. The alcohol flowed freely, and with each drink, the nagging voice in the back of my mind, the one that sounded suspiciously like Anna, grew fainter. Carlos, a young man approached, his eyes wide with admiration. "I've been following your career. How do you do it? How do you stay so calm under pressure?" I draped an arm around his shoulders, pulling him close as if sharing a secret. "My boy, the key is to embrace the risk. Life is a gamble, why not make it a thrilling one?" The crowd around us laughed, hanging on my every word. This was what I lived for, the adoration, the respect, the envy in their eyes. But as I turned to order another round, it happened. A sharp pain, as if 1,000 needles were piercing my chest. The world began to spin, the casino lights transforming into a frenzied kaleidoscope. I fell from my chair, my body convulsing on the cold marble floor. "Someone call an ambulance." I heard someone shout in the distance. But I was already falling into an endless abyss, the voices becoming more and more distant. The last thing I saw before darkness engulfed me was the face of the Russian magnate, his cold eyes now filled with something akin to pity. In that moment, I realized the true stakes of the game I had been playing. As consciousness slipped away, fragmented memories flashed before my eyes. Anna's tearful face as I walked out the door, promising it would be the last time. My daughter's birthday party, the one I had missed for a high-stakes game in Macau. The look of disappointment in my son's eyes when I failed to show up for his graduation. The world around me faded to black, and I found myself floating in a void. Was this death? Or something else entirely? A voice, familiar yet ethereal, whispered in the darkness. "Carlos, it's time to see the truth." Suddenly, I was no longer in the void. I was watching myself, but not as the triumphant gambler I thought I was. I saw a man consumed by addiction, neglecting his family, his health, his very soul for the next big win. I witnessed the tears Anna shed in private, her prayers for my safe return. I saw my children growing up without a father, learning to hide their disappointment behind forced smiles and shrugs. No, I tried to scream, but no sound came out. This can't be real. But it was. Every missed moment, every broken promise, every lie I had told myself, it was all laid bare before me. As I watched my life unfold from this new perspective, I felt a deep, crushing regret. How could I have been so blind? How could I have thrown away everything that truly mattered for the fleeting thrill of the game? The scenes shifted rapidly, showing me glimpses of a possible future. My family moving on without me, finding happiness despite the hole I had left in their lives. The casino, once my kingdom, forgetting my name as new high rollers took my place. And then, darkness again. But this time, it wasn't the comforting black of unconsciousness. It was a void filled with the weight of my choices, the consequences of my actions. As I floated in this limbo, I heard that voice again. It's not too late, Carlos. But the choice is yours. With a gasp, I opened my eyes. The harsh fluorescent lights of a hospital room greeted me, a stark contrast to the opulent glow of the casino. The steady beep of a heart monitor filled the room. He's awake. I heard a nurse call out. As my vision cleared, I saw Anna sitting by my bedside, her eyes red from crying. She squeezed my hand, her touch a lifeline pulling me back to reality. Carlos, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. We thought we'd lost you. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and raw. Anna brought a cup of water to my lips, helping me drink. Anna, I managed to croak out. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. Don't try to talk. You need to rest. But I couldn't rest. Not yet. Not with the weight of my revelations pressing down on me. No, Anna. I need to say this. I've been a fool. A selfish, blind fool. But I want to change. I need to change. The look of hope that dawned in her eyes was almost too much to bear. How many times had I made promises, only to break them at the first temptation? I mean at this time, I continued, my voice growing stronger. What happened? I saw things, Anna. I understood things. I can't go back to that life. I won't. She nodded, wanting to believe but afraid to hope. We'll get through this together, Carlos. One day at a time. As I lay there, holding Anna's hand, I knew the road ahead would be challenging. Addiction doesn't disappear overnight, and trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt. But for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. The game had changed. The stakes were higher than ever before. But this time, I wasn't gambling with money or material possessions. I was playing for something far more precious, a second chance at life, at family, at redemption. And this was one bet I couldn't afford to lose. The darkness was absolute. There was no up or down, left or right. Only the void. And then I heard it. A whisper, so low I thought it was my imagination. Carlos. Carlos. Come play with us. I tried to move, but I had no body. I was just consciousness floating in nothingness. Gradually, shapes began to materialize. Dancing shadows, like black smoke coming to life. Suddenly, a figure stood out. It was as if all my nightmares had merged into a single entity. Its face was a grotesque mask, half the smiling face of the Joker, half the skull of the Queen of Spades. Its eyes glowed with an infernal red, and when it smiled, I saw rows of teeth as sharp as razor blades. Welcome to your private playground, Carlos, the creature growled, its voice a mixture of maniacal laughter and the clinking of poker chips. Did you enjoy life's bluff? Pity that here, the stakes are a little more permanent. With a gesture of its deformed hand, images began to form around us. I saw myself losing my house in a bet, my wife crying as she cradled our newborn son. I saw myself lying to my parents, borrowing money I would never return. No. I shouted or tried to shout, but no sound came out. This isn't real. I never. The demon cackled, a sound that made my soul tremble. Oh, but it is real, Carlos. Every little detail. This is your legacy. These are the lives you destroyed with your obsession. The images intensified. Friends drifting away, lost opportunities, precious moments with my family that would never return. And in each scene, there I was, blind to everything except the cards in my hands and the chips in front of me. Stop. I begged, feeling an anguish that went beyond the physical. Please stop. The demon leaned in, its fetid breath enveloping me like a toxic mist. Stop? But Carlos, the fun is just beginning. After all, the house always wins. And with those words, I felt as if I was being pulled even deeper into the abyss, the demonic laughter echoing in my ears as I fell. I tried to scream, but my voice was swallowed by the void. The faces of those I had wronged flashed before me, their expressions a mix of disappointment, anger, and sorrow. My children, growing up without a father. My wife, crying herself to sleep night after night. My parents, their hopes for me crumbling with each broken promise. This can't be happening, I thought desperately. This must be a nightmare. I'll wake up soon. But the demon's laughter only grew louder, more mocking. Oh, Carlos, it sneered, its voice seeming to come from everywhere at once. "This is no nightmare. This is your reality. The one you've been running from all these years." Suddenly, I found myself in a twisted version of the casino where I had my heart attack. The walls were dripping with what looked like blood, the cards on the tables bore faces of agony, and the chips were made of human bones. "Care for a game?" the demon asked, gesturing to an empty seat at a poker table. "The stakes are simple. Your soul." I tried to refuse, to turn away, but found myself drawn to the table against my will. I don't want to play," I stammered. The demon's grin widened, impossibly large on its misshapen face. "But you do, Carlos. You always want to play. It's who you are. It's all you are." As I sat down, I felt a weight in my hands. Looking down, I saw I was holding cards. But these weren't ordinary playing cards. Each one showed a moment from my life, my wedding day, the birth of my first child, my daughter's first steps. All the moments I had missed or taken for granted. "The game is simple," the demon explained, its voice dripping with malice. "You bet these moments. If you win, you get them back. If you lose, well, let's just say they'll be erased. Not just from your memory, but from existence itself." Horror washed over me as I realized the true nature of the game. "No," I whispered. "I can't. I won't." But even as I said the words, I felt the familiar itch in my fingers, the rush of adrenaline at the prospect of a high-stakes game. The addiction that had ruled my life for so long was still there, whispering seductively in my ear. "Come on, Carlos," it seemed to say. "One more game. You can win it all back. You're the king of cards, remember." I looked at the demon, its red eyes gleaming with anticipation. What if I refused to play?" It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Refuse? Oh, Carlos. You've been playing this game your entire life. You can't stop now. The only question is, how much more are you willing to lose?" With trembling hands, I looked at my cards again. My son's graduation, a family vacation we had planned but I had canceled for a poker tournament, my 20th wedding anniversary that I had forgotten in the haze of a 3-day gambling binge. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the true cost of my addiction. It wasn't just money I had been gambling away all these years. It was my life, my family, my very soul. I fold," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The demon's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in fury. "You can't fold. The game has already begun." But I stood up from the table, letting the cards fall from my hands. "No," I said, feeling a strength I hadn't known I possessed. "I'm done playing. I'm done gambling with what really matters." The world around us began to shake, the macabre casino crumbling. The demon howled in rage, its form beginning to disintegrate. "You can't escape, Carlos," it shrieked. "You'll always be a gambler. It's in your blood." I stood firm as the chaos swirled around me. "You're right," I said. "I am a gambler. But from now on, I'm betting on my family, on love, on redemption. And those are odds I'm willing to face." The demon's scream faded into nothingness as the world dissolved around me. I felt myself falling again, but this time, it wasn't into an abyss. It felt like I was rising, breaking through the surface after being underwater for too long. With a gasp, I opened my eyes. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room greeted me, a stark contrast to the nightmarish world I had just left. The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the air, a reminder that I was alive, that I had been given another chance. Anna was there, her hand clasping mine, her eyes filled with worry and hope. "Carlos," she whispered. "Are you okay? You were thrashing in your sleep." I looked at her, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. I saw the lines of worry etched on her face, the gray hairs that hadn't been there before, the love that still shone in her eyes despite everything I had put her through. "Anna," I said, my voice hoarse with emotion. "I'm so sorry. For everything. But I promise you, things are going to change. I'm going to change." She smiled, a tentative, hopeful smile that broke my heart and gave me strength at the same time. "I want to believe you, Carlos. I really do." I squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. "I know I've said this before, but this time is different. I've seen. I've understood things I never did before. I don't want to lose you, or our family. I don't want to lose myself." As I spoke, I felt a weight lifting from my chest. The demon's words still echoed in my mind, but they no longer held power over me. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, that the addiction would always be a part of me, lurking in the shadows. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. "I love you, Anna," I said, the words feeling new and precious on my tongue. "And I'm ready to prove it. Every day, for the rest of our lives." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against mine. "I love you too, Carlos. We'll get through this together." As we sat there, in the quiet of the hospital room, I made a silent vow. No more gambling with what truly mattered. No more risking my family, my future, my soul for the fleeting thrill of the game. From now on, I would bet on love, on redemption, on second chances. And those, I realized, were the best odds I'd ever had. In the depths of my despair, a bright light burst through the darkness. The demonic figure recoiled, hissing with rage. In its place, a warm and comforting presence emerged. "Carlos," said a gentle voice, "you have strayed from the path of light, but you were never alone." The figure, radiant and serene, continued, "Even in the moments when you lost yourself in gambling, you were loved. There is still time to find your way back." I felt a wave of understanding wash over me. The bets were not just a harmless hobby, they were a barrier that separated me from love, family, and a fulfilling life. As the warm light enveloped me, I felt my consciousness expanding. Memories flooded back, but this time, I saw them from a different perspective. I saw the pain in Anna's eyes every time I chose the casino over our family dinner. I heard the disappointment in my children's voices when I missed another school play or sports game. I felt the weight of the lies I had told, the promises I had broken, all for the fleeting thrill of the next big win. Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling with a mixture of awe and fear. The radiant figure smiled, a smile that seemed to contain all the love and forgiveness in the universe. "I am many things, Carlos. To some, I am hope. To others, redemption. You can think of me as a guide, here to help you see the truth you've been hiding from yourself." I felt tears welling up in my eyes, tears that seemed to wash away years of self-deception. "I've made such a mess of everything," I whispered. "How can I possibly fix it?" The figure reached out, and though it didn't touch me physically, I felt a warmth spread through my entire being. "The first step is acknowledging the problem, Carlos. You've already taken that step. Now you must commit to change, not just in words, but in actions." As the figure spoke, scenes from my life began to play out around us, like a movie projected on the very fabric of reality. I saw myself sitting at countless poker tables, eyes fevered with the excitement of the game. But now, I could also see what was happening beyond those tables. I saw Anna, staying up late, worried sick about where I was and how much I was losing. I saw my son, practicing his graduation speech alone in his room, rehearsing words meant for a father who wouldn't be there to hear them. I saw my daughter, tearfully explaining to her friends why her dad couldn't make it to her dance recital. "Oh God," I choked out, the full weight of my actions crashing down on me. "What have I done?" The radiant figure's voice was filled with compassion. "You lost your way, Carlos. But it's not too late to find it again." As I watched these scenes, I felt a deep, aching regret, but also a growing determination. I turned to the figure, my voice stronger now. "Tell me what I need to do. I'll do anything to make this right." The figure nodded approvingly. "The journey will not be easy, Carlos. Addiction is a powerful force, and you will face many challenges. But remember this moment. Remember the pain you've caused, and the love that still waits for you. Let that be your strength." Suddenly, the scenes around us changed. I saw potential futures unfolding. In one, I saw myself attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, sharing my story, helping others who were trapped in the same cycle of addiction. In another, I was rebuilding trust with my family, one day at a time, helping my son with his college applications, cheering at my daughter's performances, holding Anna's hand as we walked through a park, talking and laughing like we used to. "These futures are possible, Carlos," the figure said. "But they require commitment, honesty, and hard work. Are you ready for that?" I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of purpose I hadn't experienced in years. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm ready. I want to be the husband and father my family deserves. I want to be the man I know I can be." The figure smiled again, and the light around us began to pulse with energy. "Then it's time for you to go back, Carlos. Remember what you've seen here. Remember the choices you need to make. Your family is waiting for you." As the light grew brighter, threatening to engulf everything, I had one last question. "Will I remember all of this when I wake up?" The figure's voice was already starting to fade. "You'll remember what's important. The rest is up to you." The light became blinding, and I felt myself being pulled back to the world of the living, back to the hospital room where my journey had begun. I opened my eyes with a gasp, the sterile smell of the hospital filling my nostrils. The steady beep of the heart monitor grounded me in reality. Anna was there, her hand clasping mine, her eyes filled with concern and hope. "Carlos," she said softly, "you were talking in your sleep. Are you okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the years of worry and pain etched on her beautiful face. But I also saw the love that still burned in her eyes, the hope that hadn't quite died out despite everything I had put her through. "Anna," I said, my voice hoarse with emotion. "I'm more than okay. I'm awake. Really awake, for the first time in years." She looked at me quizzically, not quite understanding. I squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. "I've been such a fool, Anna. I've hurt you, our children, our family, in ways I'm only now beginning to understand. But I want to change. I need to change." Anna's eyes welled up with tears. "Carlos, I've heard this before. How do I know it's different this time?" I nodded, acknowledging the pain and doubt in her voice. "You're right to be skeptical. I've given you every reason to doubt me. But something happened while I was unconscious, Anna. I can't explain it fully, but I understood things I never did before. The damage I've done, the pain I've caused. But I also saw what we could be, what our family could be if I commit to real change." I took a deep breath, the words pouring out of me now. "I want to go to Gamblers Anonymous. I want to see a therapist. I want to rebuild our trust, day by day, moment by moment. I know it won't be easy, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But if you're willing to give me one last chance, I promise you with everything I am, that I will not waste it." Anna was crying now, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "Oh Carlos," she whispered. "I want to believe you. I want it so badly." I reached up, gently wiping away her tears. "Then believe in us, Anna. In the love we've always had, even when I was too blind to see it. I can't change the past, but I can promise you a different future. A future where I'm present, where I'm the husband and father our family deserves." She leaned forward, resting her forehead against mine. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay. We'll try. Together." As we sat there in the quiet of the hospital room, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead would be challenging, I knew that. The addiction would always be a part of me, a demon I would have to face every day. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. Real, tangible hope. I made a silent vow then to myself, to Anna, to our children, and to the radiant figure from my vision. No more gambling with what truly mattered. No more risking my family, my future, my soul for the fleeting thrill of the game. From now on, I would bet on love, on redemption, on second chances. And as I held Anna's hand, listening to the steady rhythm of the heart monitor, I knew that those were the best odds I'd ever had. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, they say. And there, in that hospital room, with the love of my life by my side, I took that first step towards a new life. A life of honesty, of presence, of true connection. The game had changed. And this time, I was determined to win what really mattered. I woke up in a hospital bed, with Anna holding my hand. The doctors were talking about a heart attack, but I knew I had experienced something much deeper. The sterile smell of the hospital room and the rhythmic beeping of monitors grounded me in reality, but the vivid memories of my otherworldly experience still swirled in my mind. "Carlos." Anna's voice was soft, filled with a mixture of relief and concern. "How are you feeling?" I turned to look at her, really look at her, for what felt like the first time in years. The worry lines etched on her face, the gray strands in her hair that hadn't been there before, all testaments to the stress I had put her through. Yet, her eyes still held that unwavering love that had sustained our family through my years of addiction. "Anna," I began, my voice hoarse from disuse, "I need to tell you something. Something incredible happened while I was unconscious." She leaned in, her brow furrowed with concern. "What is it, Carlos?" "The doctors said you might be disoriented when you woke up." I shook my head, trying to find the words to describe the profound experience I had undergone. "It wasn't just a blackout, Anna. I experienced something. There was a demon, representing my gambling addiction, and then a figure of light that showed me the truth about my life. I tried to explain about the demonic entity that had shown me the destruction my addiction had wrought, and the radiant being that had offered me a chance at redemption. As I spoke, I could see the doubt creeping into Anna's eyes. "Carlos," she said gently, squeezing my hand, "you've been through a traumatic experience. It's normal to have hallucinations." Her words hit me like a bucket of cold water. She didn't believe me. How could she not see the profound change that had occurred within me? "It wasn't a hallucination, Anna," I insisted, my voice rising with frustration. "It was real. More real than anything I've ever experienced. I saw what I've done to our family, to you. I understand now, and I want to change. I need to change." Anna's expression softened, but I could still see the skepticism in her eyes. "I want to believe you, Carlos. I really do. But we've been here before. You've promised to change so many times." Her words trailed off, but I could hear the unspoken continuation. "And you've always gone back to gambling." In the days that followed, I found myself struggling against a tide of disbelief and skepticism. The doctors attributed my visions to the trauma of the heart attack and the drugs in my system. My friends from the casino laughed outright when I mentioned quitting gambling. "Come on, Carlos," chuckled Miguel, a regular at the high-stakes tables, when he visited me in the hospital. "You? Quit? That's a good one. You'll be back at the tables before the month is out, mark my words." His laughter echoed in my ears long after he had left, a haunting reminder of the life I was trying to leave behind. Even my family members exchanged worried glances when I spoke about my spiritual epiphany. My brother, Luis, pulled Anna aside one day, thinking I couldn't hear them. "Anna," he whispered, "maybe we should consider getting Carlos some psychological help. This talk about demons and angels, it's not like him." I'm worried. I felt a deep sense of isolation settling over me. The experience had been so real, so transformative. How could I make them understand? How could I convince them that this time was different, that I had truly seen the light? One afternoon, as I sat alone in my hospital room, the weight of my situation crushing down on me, I felt a moment of weakness. The old urges started to creep back in. Maybe they were right. Maybe it had all been a hallucination. Maybe I was fooling myself thinking I could change. Just as despair was about to overwhelm me, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It was a faint echo of the radiant presence I had encountered in my vision. I closed my eyes, letting the feeling wash over me. "Remember," a voice seemed to whisper in my mind. "Remember what you saw. Remember what you learned. The path will not be easy, but you are not alone." I opened my eyes, a new resolve strengthening my spirit. It didn't matter if no one else believed me. I knew the truth. I had experienced something profound, and I would not let that realization slip away. When Anna came to visit that evening, she found me sitting up in bed, a notebook in my lap. "What's this?" she asked, curiosity piquing her voice. I smiled at her, the first genuine smile I had given in years. "It's a plan, Anna. A plan for our future. For my recovery." I showed her the pages filled with my scribbled notes. There were names of Gamblers Anonymous meetings in our area, contact information for therapists specializing in addiction, and a list of steps I wanted to take to rebuild trust with her and our children. "I know you have doubts, Anna," I said softly. "I know I've given you every reason not to trust me. But I'm asking you to trust this version of me. The one who has seen the destruction he's caused and wants nothing more than to make it right." Anna's eyes welled up with tears as she looked over my notes. "Oh, Carlos," she whispered, her voice catching. "I want to believe. I want it so badly." I took her hand in mine, feeling the warmth of her skin against my palm. "Then believe in us, Anna. In the love we've always had, even when I was too blind to see it. I can't change the past, but I can promise you a different future. A future where I'm present, where I'm the husband and father our family deserves." She looked at me for a long moment, searching my eyes for something. Whatever she saw there must have convinced her, because she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay. We'll try. Together." As Anna embraced me, I felt a glimmer of hope ignite in my chest. The road ahead would be challenging, I knew that. The addiction would always be a part of me, a demon I would have to face every day. The doubts of those around me would be a constant hurdle to overcome. But in that moment, with Anna in my arms and the memory of my spiritual awakening fresh in my mind, I knew I had the strength to face whatever came next. I had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite my story, to be the man I was always meant to be. As I held Anna close, I made a silent vow. To myself, to her, to our children, and to the radiant figure from my vision. No more gambling with what truly mattered. No more risking my family, my future, my soul for the fleeting thrill of the game. From now on, I would bet on love, on redemption, on second chances. And as the sun set outside my hospital room window, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The game had changed. And this time, I was determined to win what really mattered. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, they say. And there, in that hospital room, with the love of my life by my side and a new purpose in my heart, I took that first step towards a new life. A life of honesty, of presence, of true connection. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. But for the first time in years, I was ready to face it head-on. Because now, I wasn't just playing for myself. I was playing for my family, for my future, for my very soul. And those, I realized, were the best odds I'd ever had. Despite the incomprehension of others, I knew I couldn't ignore what I had experienced. The memory of my near-death experience burned bright in my mind, a beacon guiding me towards a new path. As I stood at the crossroads of my life, I made the decision to radically transform my existence. The first step was the hardest, admitting to myself, and to others, that I needed help. I reached out to a professional therapist specializing in gambling addiction. Dr. Emily Carter's office became a sanctuary of sorts, a place where I could confront my demons without judgment. "Carlos," Dr. Carter said during our first session, her voice calm and reassuring, "recovery is a journey, not a destination. There will be good days and bad days. The important thing is to keep moving forward." Her words became my mantra as I navigated the treacherous waters of early recovery. There were moments of doubt, times when the siren call of the casino whispered seductively in my ear. But each time, I would close my eyes and remember the radiant figure from my vision, reminding me of what truly mattered. In a move that shocked many, I decided to donate a significant portion of my gambling winnings to charities that helped compulsive gamblers. My old friend Miguel couldn't believe it when I told him. "Are you crazy, Carlos?" he exclaimed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "That's your nest egg. Your security." I smiled, feeling a peace I hadn't known in years. "No, Miguel. My security is in my family, in the love I almost lost. This money, it was never really mine. It's time it did some good." As the weeks turned into months, I found myself drawn to sharing my story with others. I started attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, not just as a participant, but as a speaker. Standing in front of rooms full of people who were battling the same demons I had faced, I saw in their eyes the same desperation that had once been mine. "I stood where you're standing now," I would tell them, my voice filled with emotion. "I thought I had lost everything. But let me tell you, rock bottom can be the foundation on which you rebuild your life." Anna, my rock through this tumultuous journey, remained skeptical about my near-death experience. But she couldn't deny the change she saw in me. "I don't know if what you saw was real, Carlos," she said one night as we sat on our porch, watching the sunset. "But I know that the man I see before me now is the man I always knew you could be." Her words warmed my heart, filling me with renewed determination. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild the bonds I had strained with my addiction. My children, initially wary of my change, began to open up to me again. My daughter, Sophia, approached me one day, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and hesitation. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling slightly, would you like to come to my dance recital next week?" I felt tears well up in my eyes as I pulled her into a tight embrace. "I wouldn't miss it for the world, mi amor," I whispered. Today, as I look back on the journey that brought me here, I'm struck by how close I came to losing everything because of gambling. My near-death experience showed me the true value of life, love, and family. I learned that real luck isn't found in cards or dice, but in the choices we make every day. As I continue to share my story, I hope it can serve as a beacon of hope for others who are lost in the shadows of addiction. Because I learned the hardest way possible. Sometimes, you have to lose everything to gain what truly matters. To those of you listening to my story, I want you to know that change is possible. No matter how deep in the darkness you might be, there is always a path back to the light. It won't be easy, and there will be days when you want to give up. But I promise you, the journey is worth it. If my story has touched you in any way, I encourage you to share it with others who might benefit from hearing it. Subscribe to this channel to hear more stories of transformation and hope. Like this video if you found it inspiring, and please, share in the comments what you thought about my near-death experience and the lessons I learned. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to make better choices, to be the person you want to be. Whether you're struggling with addiction, or simply trying to be a better version of yourself, know that you're not alone. We're all on this journey together. And to those of you who might be where I once was, teetering on the edge of losing everything to addiction, I want you to hear this. There is hope. There is always hope. Reach out for help. Take that first step. Because on the other side of addiction, there's a life waiting for you that's more beautiful than you can imagine. As I stand here today, surrounded by the love of my family, free from the chains of my addiction, I can honestly say that I've never felt luckier. Not because of any hand I've been dealt, but because of the choices I've made and the second chance I've been given. So dear listeners, I leave you with this final thought. Life is the greatest game of all. And in this game, love, family, and personal growth are the ultimate jackpot. Don't gamble with what truly matters. Bet on yourself, bet on love, bet on life. Because those are odds worth playing for. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you in any way, I encourage you to share it with others who might benefit from hearing it. Subscribe to this channel to hear more stories of transformation and hope. Like this video if you found it inspiring, and please, share in the comments what you thought about my near-death experience and the lessons I learned. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Together, we can spread hope and inspiration to those struggling with addiction. Remember, every journey begins with a single step. What will yours be?